Hey, my name is Scotty, and thanks so much for joining me in this tutorial where we'll be sketching this Japanese temple right here using my loose ink and watercolor sketching technique. So to start this sketch, I want to get the big shapes, the main shapes, and fit it on the page. So I started with using my fingers on the corners of the bottom of the building and comparing it to the height. That might be a good start to making it fit on the page for us. So on the bottom of the page, and then we're going to set the width. So those two dots I've got in the reference, and you can set that any width you like. About halfway between those two dots, put a dot, and then between these sections, put a dot each. And there, we've got 3/4. So I'm going to measure that, and then putting it in the middle, and a dot at the top. That's just roughly the 3/4 height. The other corners, the top corners of the building, see the dot there on the outside, and I'm looking to where that dot is, to the height of my pen, and it's about there. And about a pen width away. So now we can see the whole structure of the sketch, and we've got the proportion. Doesn't have to be too crazy, just a little bit of nice wobble. See that? The bottom one. Now it'd be nice if we could just draw that straight line, but there are lots of interesting people cutting that line. That blue line there is roughly where all the heads are going to line up. I'll draw his head, so I'm outlining the top of his head, the torso here, the body, but that's that torso, and then the legs. Their head's about there, but a bit smaller. So make the head a bit smaller. Outlining the arms. This person's leg actually finishes here, so that makes them look a lot further away. I generally put the head in a little bit where the ear is. That's cool. You could put the tie in there, and then that will help us with our outline. Person here just above the line, they've got a smaller head than this person because they're further back. So got the person, the head, outline of the head, outline of the torso, and we can put in arms. And some of them are connected, so around a head here, around another head, indicating where the arms are, legs are. And see how abstract that is? That's his head there, just a rough outline of the head. Then the shoulders come down, 2 legs. Yeah, I'm making them little spiky points. Now I want you to actually divide that into 3. So 1, 2. Now let's do a nice wobbly line here, straight, and then wobble. It has interesting details which we'll add in later, and down this way too. But between here and here, I'm going to divide it into 3. So 3 equal gaps. It's good practice for drawing wobbly straight lines. So that's 1/4 there. And from here to the side, it is actually how far roughly the side of the building comes in. I'll grab this length this side and go here, and it should be about there. But there, we're coming up and stopping about there. Now we bend down, around, and come to that point. As we go down to that point, there's a slight wobble up and down for the different tiles that are on the roof, and then it comes up. So it's really exaggerated. And then out, just past the dot, kind of a wobbly line there, just little tiny up and down lines there. It's like this wooden timber structure there that goes in and out. Add some interest there with the structures. And then it's got that shape and it comes up. There is a tree blocking the line there on that side, but I'm just going to draw it straight across. So I'm going to connect those 2 up. So let's do that first. Down to that point and then back here and out again. The tile of the roof is about halfway. So let's put a dot there actually, they're halfway. And if it's below, just keep going. Below that line, let's add another one. So I'm going to draw that sign down to that dot, just to help that give us that symmetry. In this section here, there should be another sign. And if it doesn't quite fit, just make it a bit, the gaps between them a bit smaller. A little bit above halfway. So bending down and then up, up, up. Camera, but I've locked my wrist and I'm moving from my elbow. Pylons that go up, got one there. And I'm leaving the angles that they have slight angles, and then they angle back the other way there. So that we come down a bit here and add that one there. Keep going across and up a bit, up there. Oh, mine had a major wobble adventure there. And this one on this side. And across the same height on the back. So for me, that is all the line work, the main lines done, and now we can do some detail. So I'll start at the top here. You can see that there's a bar across there that's a bit flatter. I'm not counting them, I'm not worrying if they're the wrong size, but generally making them small. I think with a temple like this, all these little details are what makes it look so interesting. So just about the same width as one of your semicircles. Just do them up there, but here we're a bit straighter now. It's a bit easier. Really close in here. Just some guessing of the line, so very thin. And people often ask me, how do I simplify? And it's by sacrificing some of the detail here. And then it goes down and touches this line. A little square on each one of those rectangular pink signs, shapes there, just to show the timber. And I'll put a double line here, so put another line and bring them in. Oh, there's a bit of a wide one. Paint that red and then add white into that. And one here. Then on the top of each pole, another square, 2 lines, and then straight lines. This is that teal color there. Take a little bit more time to try and make that match a bit better. There's some ropes coming off here, there's some detail in the background, and if you imagine that line coming there and out like that, and I'm doing it again on this side, there, coming out. It's quite rough, you don't have to make it perfect. Oh, then the trees that we talked about, just an outline, simple, emitting lots of detail here, I know. Okay, well done. Let's get on to some watercolor. So I'm using my round 10 brush, and we're gonna add a light wash on top. And the red, what we're gonna use for the red is cadmium red hue here I've got. But there's a little bit of brown in the red here, so I'll also add some burnt umber. I'll start on the side here, just below that gutter there, and add a line across. So as I go down this way, I'm gonna add a little gap between the line, roughly go around some of that, and add little shapes here. And little strokes, rectangles around the pink signs. So I'm adding a little bit more water here. It's very loose, it can go outside or inside the lines. Now the next section, let's add just a little bit more paint into that mix to make it more saturated, because we want that contrast down the bottom, leaving a little gap between the tiles and the red wood. If I've gone over some of the bits that are white, I'll just use my white pen across these beams. I want this to look light and this to look dark. So I'm using Payne's Grey layer across the top, so we don't have to add dark sections too much. We'll do another layer later. Now a little bit more in there, a little bit more Payne's Grey, and we're darkening that up right across, and that should be darker, even more darker. In this section here where I just used my pen, a little bit more Payne's Grey into there, give nice contrast around the figures in here as well. So we're going to add some of that into there, especially the little people in the back, shapes like that, this guy, and we're making very light grey, just like the top. And now just add a stroke in between the people like this. So I'm using permanent rose. Try and go around these, I'll try. Then above that we have some yellow, so I'll use cadmium yellow here. Just on those squares, let's put the yellow. Let's do some around there. So can you get burnt sienna, which is good for skin tones? So we have the hands, wherever you can see any skin. So sap green, so a warm green, around your gold lettering. Then the trees, so we'll have on this one, viridian green into that. You can blend it in so they can mix. So there we've got that color, turquoise and viridian green. Yep, that works. Cerulean blue we'll use for the sky as well later. So let's use that for some of the clothing. Sweater here, and this person here. This person has a red jacket, so I'll just get cadmium red, no brown in it. This lady has beige pants, so yellow ochre, or sort of a straw color. Yeah, beige, I'll just turn them into straw. Or add a bit of ultramarine, so change the color a bit there. Yeah, that's good. For the jeans, Now the sign, the lettering, so I'll get my Payne's grey, white bits around between the red of the lantern and the lettering. If you leave white gaps, if you can, maybe use a smaller brush than I do. And I'm going to add just a little bit of contrast to the front of these tiles where those semicircles that we did were. Once you have a bit of that paint going, you can add another stroke just across this top part. See how it's a bit darker than the tile bits. So for the shadows layer, I'm going to use more of an ultramarine mix this week. Let's just make it a tiny bit purple. So we have ultramarine and permanent rose. Actually, go further, and I'll start going around that sign, right around down to where the top of the lanterns are. Inside these little doorways, so just around here, so some shadow just underneath each one. So just plain ultramarine now. Cerulean blue, so whatever light, really light blue you have that you might use for sky. Let's start with a stroke like this, close to the building without touching it like that. Continue the strokes down so it looks like the sky's coming across. See how light and loose that is? Now it's mostly dry again. We can work on the little details here with my white pen. So I have my Uniball Signo pen. Here, let's add little dots, little wiggles. It's not really accurate, but it's the idea. I've painted over a lot of these. So that's how I sketch a Japanese temple with my ink and watercolor sketching technique. Hope you enjoyed the process. And if you'd like to see the full version without the cuts, that's over on my Patreon membership. You also get the reference to download and the template there you can have. And you also get access to my full library of tutorials from fundamentals, all different types of tutorials. There's over 100 there you can look at. And there's a community where you can post your sketch and ask me a question. Otherwise, there's another tutorial right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.